Special to me. The Indian Express was actually founded in Chennai, so I always feel a lot of sense of nostalgia when I kind of come here. Something very special about what both of you have actually done. It's not just your personal accomplishments as in your professional career. It's the fact that you've actually, I think, you're one of the first people who actually changed the view that sports people around the world had towards Indians. I mean, I'm making a big statement, but I think I'm not too far off. There was a certain, the narrative about Indian sports people kind of changed. I think you kind of did that. And then you kind of not only changed the opinion, you kind of created an entire culture, an entire ecosystem. Ground up from India, which is now kind of challenging all over the world. When all that time, all the effort you took to doing that, the best part that I feel is that you did it being a nice guy. And it sounds flippant, but to be honest, I find that very rare. I find that now we're living in an age where there is a view that to succeed, you have to be very aggressive. You have to be very competitive. You have to be hyper competitive, and competition is always great. But there's this certain brashness that's kind of almost taken for granted that we need to succeed in any field. You look in politics, you look in business, certainly in sports. Is that something that was conscious? Is that something that kind of you just lived and you were just who you are?
I think a lot has to do with upbringing, and it's simply and the grounding. I feel my family and especially my schoolmates and all, they treat you in a certain way, and it would feel strange if anything changed in that. To the extent that even when I had to say something brash, I would agonize afterwards. Was it too much? Was it too little? It just felt uncomfortable. And to be honest, most of the time I felt that being yourself is easiest on you. So, when your public persona is what you're yourself comfortable with inside, it's best to stay in that range. But yes, I credit everyone else for, because if my family had changed how they interacted with me, it could have affected me. But that was always a big support.
But do you accept this argument? I mean, it's my argument, and I've kind of, I just feel strongly about it nowadays. I'm seeing it more and more that we're kind of taught that we have to be aggressive to win. The people you are mentoring, they don't seem that way. You don't seem to subscribe to that. But I mean, if you compare, Gavaskar to a Kohli, or you look at any field, it just over time it seems that you're being kind of taught to be more aggressive.
Yes, the thing is, there are chess players and they thrive under aggression. It could be their upbringing or their circumstances. Famously, someone like Victor Korchnoi, he would have an argument before every game, but he would play better. Whenever I had the minor disagreement with someone not even from the tournament, it would bug me a little bit. So, we just cut from different cloth. And I think now, maybe I'm also from a previous generation, and now the camera is always on you. Sometimes you feel like performing. And maybe we didn't have to do that, which is also nice.
You kind of gave credit to, your niceness to other people, other people's influence in your life. Do you at least see your influence in the little nice people that India is now generating, the next layer of grandmasters that are coming in, Gukesh, Prag, Arjun? Do you see yourself reflected in them? Your niceness kind of rubbing off on them?
I hope. I mean, they have seen me growing up, and I hope maybe that played a part. But to be honest, they came, preheated like that. They. It's interesting. I mean, the age difference is so much that all of them would call me sir all the time. And as you heard, Prag, it's 7 times in the same sentence. And it feels awkward. I think one time I tried to tell them, you don't need to say that many, sir, that many times. But They then said, well, would you like uncle? I said, no, leave it at sir. Just fine. The other thing is they just very well brought up in this sense. Maybe that's a very Chennai thing, but recently I was at an event where, I stood up to speak. And mainly Prag and Gukesh stood up next to me. They're both top 10 players, but immediately they felt the need to stand up, and because sitting while I'm standing just didn't think. So they are very well brought up kids.
But they're not very polite when you play them on the chessboard, right?
I have not played them a lot recently. I played Prag in a match which is already 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I played Gukesh last year, and it's occasional. But even there, they're very polite, but not at the board. You're right. They're very, very competitive at the board. Again, I like this, that they separate the aggression there and here. They come there wanting to really beat you, whoever you are. But afterwards, they go back to being incredibly polite and.
This whole sort of what you have called the golden generation of chess players coming out now. I feel in India we've made a lot of money and a lot of effort has gone into all kinds of sports. Football, hockey, table tennis, badminton. There's a lot of money. A lot of ISL types of, a lot of IPL type, Me Too to IPL have kind of tried, and they've all kind of met with limited success. But somewhere, I think chess, I don't know, at least I never saw it coming. But somehow it's just taken, the whole country by storm all of a sudden. So, and kind of you've just captained the whole, you just kind of captained the entire mission of bringing chess around in India. So what is it about the sport that kind of, that's just gotten everybody so... What does it take to get a sport so popular in such a short period of time all across the country?
There are layers. Definitely when I became a grandmaster, when I started competing for the world title, when I started to appear in the sports pages very often, that has an effect. Certainly there's a generation who were following it very intensely, and a certain percentage of that were even motivated to try playing themselves and so on. Because numbers went up in competition right away. School tournaments, even open tournaments, the numbers shot up. Then the number of grandmasters started to increase. Many of them went on to found academies of their own. So the ecosystem has spent a long time building. But then recently there was this kind of boom set off by two things. People were stuck at home during the pandemic. And they had phones on which you could play chess. And on Netflix, which you could watch on your phone, there was a Queen's Gambit series.
You're giving that show that much of credit? That one show?
A lot of things came together at the right time. Queen's Gambit had audience of 70, 80 million globally. And it is credited with a lot of people.
Okay.
I think, in fact, it's not even, there are a lot of new people who got into chess, but a lot of old people who have been meaning to come back to chess but never got around to it actually did so. But if the pandemic had happened 10 years ago, our bandwidth wouldn't have been good enough. This was a very nice timing for chess, in a sense. So this was the latest wave, if you like. Yeah. And the other thing is, in India, we have had this... Indians, yes, you're right, we are really enjoying lots of sports now, but we like imposing our own business model on it now. And, we want something new. And that has happened with chess as well. So last year we had a global chess league by Tech Mahindra. They, again, trying to do this new Indian way of doing organizing sports. And let's see if that, how many fans that brings in. And clearly the aim is to make chess reach larger audiences.
But the Soviets pretty much dominated the sport when you were starting out. You only heard Russian names associated with chess. Where have they gone wrong?
I don't think they've gone wrong as such. The Soviets dominated in a much earlier era, roughly the 1910s till the 1990s. It's hard to exaggerate their dominance. They used to field the Soviet Union versus rest of the world teams and actually able to compete against the rest of the world. But a couple of things happened. First of all, Russia is not the Soviet Union, so it's a fraction. And then computers came along, and computers made all the training advantages that the Soviets had built up kind of irrelevant very fast. And, 1990, when the country broke down, a lot of Soviet, Russian, Ukrainian chess players emigrated, went to other countries, started coaching there. And so they passed it on partially it was technology. And right now, no country can dominate a sport like the Soviets used to do. That era of domination is gone forever. What you can have is you can have movements where, because it's popular, a lot of people play and it has an impact. But I don't think that Soviet dominance is coming back.
There's a view that the culture of sports people that come from countries that have got a more autocratic sort of political system versus democratic political systems. There's a certain. Have you found any difference in kind of just the culture of sports people that come out of these places? Like, is there like a? Because we keep hearing that there's a lot of fear from when there are players who come from countries which are not a democratic setup. Is that true?
No, it isn't. Again, their behavior can be strange when there are officials there, and but you imagine a lot of these things. You don't know what's really happening. Language is a big barrier, and much more 30 years ago. Now you can still hope to get it translated, but before that was not an option. So language was a big barrier. You didn't know what they were doing. But for most chess players, a chess tournament is a chance to escape from your country and be free for a while. And do everything forbidden. I mean, these guys, every evening they would party and so on, because for them, they didn't want, when they go back home, they know they're not do this for a while. So their behavior is quite different at tournaments. In fact, they were extremely friendly. But again, language is such a big barrier, I didn't understand them anyway.
So before the event started, we'd asked Aruna a couple of questions that she'd like us to ask on her behalf. So one of the questions she asked was, how do you keep your, the passion for chess so fresh after all these years? You just won your 10th Leon Masters title. Congratulations on that. But how do you keep that going?
It comes and it goes, but if you basically love the game, and the thing is, what kills your passion is partially also bad results. You can lose your motivation fast. But I try to stay updated, not hang on. Certainly it's hard for me as well, but I try to stay updated with all the modern trends in chess and keep working, because I basically like to play chess. And I know that you can't half do it. You either do it all in or you don't. So I try to keep that alive. And I've also learned to be calm about this, that enough years have taught me that, motivation will wax and it'll wane, but, it'll come back as well strongly, and you can sort of ride out the waves.
We had a second, more hard-hitting question, if you will. He was like, all the, the learnings that you've taken from chess, how does that kind of make you a better husband?
Okay, I'm happy that I'm a better husband. That's can I have that in writing? But anyway, I'm not sure that chess makes you a better husband. In fact, quite a few chess players have noted that chess actually makes you quite, like any sport, it makes you selfish. You have to be single-minded to do that. But over many years of marriage, I've learned to separate the two and switch a bit and do that. And of course, since I'm not playing the most competitive events that would take all my energy, I think I'm not so selfish. But during the World Championships, probably I was. And of course, she supported me a lot while that was happening. And afterwards, she said, okay, now the gloves are off. But chess teaches you a lot of things, but maybe the self-control is a useful tool that carries over.
Aruna, I mean, do you agree with him that when your career is a sport, you can get selfish. You can be thinking a lot, just single-minded about your game and just your.
Definitely. I think, to be a 5-time world champion, there is no other way of doing it. But like Anand says, I mean, he has learned how to split his time between being a husband and a chess player. And I think he's still learning. So there's still many more lessons to be learned there.
When does he get the grandmaster title in that zone?
I think in fatherhood, he would get it already. But I think for marriage, we'll have to wait a bit.
Okay. No, but
No, go ahead.
there's one sort of the people who play chess in my school. And I was in Mumbai, South Bombay. Sort of, I can bet my last dollar that none of them are going to become grandmasters. But people who like chess, we got a sense from that they were always a little bit aloof in school. I mean, they were just engrossed in their chess books and. And it was almost intimidating to talk to them. They seemed sort of living in a certain rarefied air. And I remember I felt once a little unqualified almost to have a conversation with somebody, when we were in the 6th or 7th grade. And you're talking and you're interacting with so many young students and encouraging them to get into chess, your own son. Do you recognize that it can be a lonely sport? It can be a lonely thing to do to play chess professionally at a very early age?
Chess can definitely take you in, so to speak. You can get so self-absorbed in chess, wondering about it all the time, and it's quite insular. Like all communities, chess has its own language, which is chess moves, chess notation. And if you put two chess players together, even if the other language doesn't click, they can start discussing a game, and then they're fine. Also, the chess players have their own ranking, their hierarchy. And so all the elements of a self-contained thing, and you can be in a bubble very fast. There are some people who wear this lightly, who have other interests, who are balanced and are able to go back and forth. And there are some who have to learn that more slowly. Bobby Fischer always comes up. But I think in his case, it was particularly hard. He was living in a country that then was totally uninterested in the game, and a very individualistic country to boot, the US. So he had this lonely worry. He was fighting not only the Soviet chess players, but his own countrymen's indifference, apathy, how it would be perceived for him. In fact, the Soviets were his biggest fans. They admired him because they loved chess. And if he had to retire to a desert island, I would recommend that he take a lot of Soviets with him, not the thing. And for him, chess gave him the ability to steady his life and focus his energy and all that. But many chess players do end up having to try to learn to balance. And I think it's very healthy to have other hobbies. And in my case, I was very happy to finish school, then go and do my BCom. I mean, it's not that I'm an ace in accounting. But you hang out with your college mates and so on. You learn this habit of speaking to people who don't understand what you do. And I think that skill, it's very important to learn one way or the other.
But do you find the next generation of people, they don't have to be necessarily chess players or take chess very seriously, but by and large, do you find the generation, I can't say my generation after me, I guess, I'm 38, so I can't go, but are they getting smarter, or do you think that there's just too much of social media, there's just too many distractions, that it's tougher now for a young Vishy Anand wannabe, at the age of 9, 10, 11, to kind of really find that level of focus and attention to kind of go and conquer chess?
I think distractions will always be there, and it's a question of you imposing limits and understanding when it's enough. Also, the same tools are nice for them. Social media thing, but on the other hand, gives them so much exposure. And I think the more accepted a sport, the more mainstream it is, the easier it is for you to fit in with the rest of society. It's only when you're doing something that no one understands and they keep asking, but what do you do? It's that stage when it's harder to fit in. And you have these issues, are my parents proud of what I'm doing, fitting in. But as it becomes more accepted, I think the current generation has to deal with that question less, and it's seen as natural. So that is healthy. But as with anything, excess is bad, and they have to find a way to moderate it.
And have the Indian audiences evolved? Not just with chess, but overall. We always think that sports fans are very fickle with their affection. I mean, when you're winning, they love you. When you stop winning, they start hating you. We saw this. We saw this in a very sharp way with Hardik Pandya right now. I'm sure you've followed. It was so violent. The kind of stuff you would hear when he'd walk out in the stadium, and then it just turned like literally overnight because he he performed one great game, and obviously he had a great series. So is that one more kind of a thing that a young chess player has to now be open to getting subject to, because the kind of attention that all your young players are kind of getting now at this young age?
It's complicated. Sports do certain things to increase engagement, and you can't choose what engagement. Once they engage, they're engaged. But at the same time, Indians are more supportive of sport overall. So it's possible for a lot of sports people to get support, to get a following. I mean, who wants to play for themselves, right? They want to play for someone else. So all that has gotten much better, and that these are secular trends in the sense that they're not going to disappear. Indians now genuinely are exposed to more sports. They're getting more sophisticated. At the same time, everyone's attention span is dropping, which means all sports are going to faster formats, trying to increase, the number of points being scored, the number of results they engage. So, and there's a lot of back and forth. I would say overall, it's much easier to be a sports person in India today than it was 20 years ago. I mean, now you get so much support. You get support for equipment, support for training, support as an audience, and things like that. But there are pressures to deal with. Some fans will lose it. And I think it's really a question of separating yourself. I once made a decision that I would never read a chess website during my tournaments. I don't have the right to demand that a fan not express his views. It's my job not to hear those views. Because, I can't say I want your money, I want your attention, but hey, you've got to behave yourself. That's not going to work. So I would never read a chess website or anything because I might bump into a comment which I then find offensive and sitting in my head all day. That's my fault. So I would cut myself off. And at the end of the tournament, I would then permit myself to find out what happened. But yeah, fans, they're the boss. They're the customers. So.
Aruna, just to bring you in, the rest of the world thinks that chess players have this crazy memory. They can remember everything. He's already gauged what I'm going to ask. But he has this tendency to kind of forget things, be, slightly absent-minded about things. You found contracts in the laundry, I believe.
We found $100 bills also. In fact, when my son was born, Anand was the first one to hold him. And for many days, my mother would ask me, "Are you sure you picked up the right kid?" So, he has quite a reputation.
But then my son once looked dreamily at the sky and she said, "He's your boy, don't worry."
Because you have a love for astronomy.
No, just I looked absent-minded, but...
But how much has the business, from your perspective as a manager, how difficult was it to, 20 years ago versus now when you sort of go and, negotiate contracts for endorsements or whatever, how much easier is it now?
I think now it's much more easier because you're much more connected. But on the other hand, people expect you to be connected all the time. So I think before... you would understand there's a Saturday, there's a Sunday, there's an 8 o'clock. Nowadays, people just message you at 10 o'clock in the night and they say it's urgent. And I don't know what can be urgent to the chess player, but, they call and they say it's urgent and, can you reply ASAP? And so that's a little disturbing because, okay, Anand is also in a different stage in his career. And, when he's at home, he would like to keep the family time private. But definitely it's become much easier. And I think they are more accepting of women taking on a role because I remember, in 2010 and 2011, most of the time I would be the only woman in the room. There were like 50 men and like Anand, he used to always make fun of me. He says, have you seen these, these big Hollywood types, they'll have a huge bodyguard and they'll have this little looking man. And if you know really well, you have to be scared of the little man because that man bites. And he'll always say, that's why I married you because you are that little man. So I think coming from there where, constantly you're questioned because as a woman, do you know this? You're just the wife. To now, I think it is just regular business. Nobody really questions your gender anymore.
Talk to us about, this world of chess, because he was somebody who was born and brought up into it. You married into it. The first week of your marriage, you were basically at Dortmund. He's playing in a chess tournament. There was this funny incident where you had to go hide in the washroom because you wouldn't know what is happening with his results. So just talk to us about that. And especially players telling him that he is going to lose rating points because he's married. Now he's in love. Did he lose rating points?
No, he gained rating points. So actually, when we got engaged and, everybody thought he was going to take me to, Switzerland or something like that, something romantic. So he said Dortmund. So my parents told me Dortmund also will be like Switzerland. Go. And, it was my first trip abroad. It was the first time I got a passport. So I had a suitcase full of saris, these grand Kanjivaram saris. And very few Western clothes. So Anand said there's an opening ceremony where the mayor is coming and I full Kanjivaram sari. Anand said, where are you going? So there's an opening ceremony, right? He says, no, the mayor just comes on a bicycle and they just eat something and they go home. I said, oh, really? I thought, mayor is coming, you have to show Indian culture to him. He said, no, it doesn't work like this there. So for me, it was a big learning curve that, you don't take protocol very seriously when you are there. And I remember every day I would go to that tournament hall and I would sleep. And it was, it was dark, it was so silent, and we didn't have mobiles in those days. So there's no way of knowing what did he do on stage. So I would run and hide in this bathroom and I would tell him, first you tell me what you did, then I'll come out of the bathroom. But after a few days, it became a bit strange to have a stalker in front of the woman's bathroom.
I think we should, we're going to get Arjun on. I want to get Arjun's view also to join us on stage. But just before that, some quick sort of marriage advice, because I have seen your interviews. Genuinely, I just feel the teamwork that the two of you show. It is something outstanding. And, I feel like if my wife and I were to work together, one of us would sort of be at each other's throats. It's just, I don't know how it works. So, some advice to us, sort of how does this teamwork kind of work so well?
I think I should let you go first. First step.
I think it's based on trust, really. Like Anand travels quite a lot, so I do a lot of the heavy hand-holding at home, especially my son is just entering his teenage years, so you can imagine how that is. But so when he comes back home, he has to step up because, more than me, I think my son has missed him a lot. So I think being aware of these things is very important, but I think largely just that it works on trust. It doesn't work on gender-specified roles or that, I do this and you do that. It is just that we take a decision, we understand it is a common decision and it works for both. But truth be told, I'm the only one who loses my temper. Anand loses his temper a lot, but it goes away like that. I lose my temper, it's a 3-day... he has to work really hard after that.
I think she said it well, first bit anyway, that trust. And there came a point when there was nothing to be discussed anymore. It was obvious that somehow we'd figure it out as a team, one of us. And even, as she says, sharing roles or dealing with events, we just knew we were a team and it started to work well. I wouldn't say it happened just like that, but we evolved there and basically we knew we were on the same team and you should just realize that.
You ended up actually doing push-ups because she was angry about the way you had played at a tournament. This was way back, but then...
Yes, so it was in Argentina in 2005 and she felt my mental attitude had been going a little bit and because already I'd lost 2 games and something was wrong in the head. So Even so, I was surprised she asked me to do 50 push-ups.
And you were
Seemed
able
like
to
a
do
particularly-
those in one go?
Yes. It was a while back, but yes.
Before we get Arjun on, is Arjun in the race? Yeah, okay, great, super. Hi. Arjun, we're going to get you on right. One last question before I kind of get Arjun on. The little strange question I'm sort of embarrassed to ask, but I really want to know. Do okay, let me ask Aruna first. Aruna, to what degree do you feel that your teamwork and all of the success you'll have had together and, Vishy individually, to what degree is it free will, to what degree is it destiny? How much of it is?
I think most of it is free will, that you're doing something that you like doing, and then the destiny makes itself. So if Anand didn't have such a passion for chess, I don't think he would still be playing it. And when he plays chess, he brings a lot of single-minded devotion to it. And when he's working with younger players, he's very keen to learn from them. So I think there's a certain true love for chess, which, it doesn't get diluted because of any other quality. And I think the single most quality I would say is that lack of ego. I think if you have a lack of ego when you are willing to study something, being a 5-time world champion, I think then that should be free will. And I think the rest, what we did was destiny.
Lovely. I think there are many sports people need to hear that answer right now around the world. Vishy, do you believe that there was some higher force? Are you one of those kind of people who think that it's that there's something, some higher force in the universe that kind of got you here?
I think I hit the jackpot when I discovered chess, because it was my calling and it's something I was very suited for. But after that, you can see even the people who discover chess, the ones who don't work, don't get anywhere. And you have to work very hard. But the beauty of finding your passion, your calling, is that the hard work doesn't feel so hard. That's the only advantage that destiny gives you. Everything else, you have to make it happen. Nothing happens by itself. So I basically think that yes, you have to work hard from there.
Super. Okay, so can we invite Arjun on stage now to join us? Why don't you do a quick intro of? I'm sure everybody here knows Arjun, and it's a pleasure to have him.
We have on stage somebody who's the top-ranked Indian chess player in the world right now. He's world number 4. And it's not a mean feat to do that, because you have somebody like a Gukesh, you have somebody like a Prag, you have somebody like Vishy sir, and then there is Arjun, who is ahead of all of them right now. And it's such a competitive thing in chess that on a weekly basis, you don't know who's going to be on top. So Arjun, thank you so much for doing this. Welcome on stage.
My pleasure being here.
Arjun, just wanted to talk to you about the Global Chess League, right? You're playing there. You have Gukesh in your team, you have Prag in your team, and you have Magnus Carlsen in your team. What's that situation like? What are you guys talking about? Are you guys fighting over meals, as in there's a chessboard somewhere you are playing against each other? How is that team camaraderie like?
Yeah, that was the first time I think we got a chance to interact with Magnus, and we were taking like every moment of it to try and understand how Magnus thinks about chess and what he feels. So, whatever tournament that was going on, we were following and we were asking about his thoughts. And also we got to play some games with him. That was very useful as well. And yeah, we got to learn a lot, I think all 3 of us, from Magnus.
Arjun, as a chess player, right? How competitive is this period that you are in? There is you, there's Prag, there's Gukesh, there's Vidit, Vishy sir is obviously there. How much do you think you guys push each other, as opposed to kind of breathing off each other's successes in a sense?
I think the term here is healthy rivalry. So there is some rivalry between us, but it's very healthy. It only motivates the other persons to work harder and do well and do better. But it's not like feeling jealous or something of that sort. So yeah, what is there right now is very good, and I think it's best for everyone if it remains the same way, because it helps everyone.
It's an incredibly mature answer. I think that's Outstanding. I really feel like a lot of sports people need to watch this conversation around the world again. I asked Vishen Aruna this. I want to ask you as well. Do you feel like you're almost, it's almost rare to kind of just be such a humble person in such a highly competitive space, so highly ranked? Are you guys standing out? Are you all different? Or is everybody kind of like that nowadays?
I think the most people that I encounter are like this, like very humble, and like Vishy sir said, maybe it comes from the upbringing and when the same for most people. So I guess that is the case.
Wonderful.
Arjun, just talk to us about, the start of 2020 when you were just coming up. What was the reception in world chess towards you guys as opposed to now when you play, like, let's say, a Magnus Carlsen on the board, or you play a Hikaru Nakamura on the board? Are you seeing a lot of respect from these guys? Because Magnus has told us in an interview that he thinks you are a madman on the chessboard, always wants to kill him and whatnot. That's high praise coming from him. But otherwise also, when you're playing against, much more established opponents, what is the sense that you're getting from them?
To be honest, I think back in 2020, we didn't get many opportunities to play against them. And that's like quite understandable because we're quite lower rated. But even if we did, I think probably they would take more risks to try and win, which may be objectively wrong, which they might not take right now because they know we are capable of punishing. So yeah, I think there is certain element of respect for the game improvement.
So I think this sort of the camaraderie that you all kind of have. You see that happening in other countries as well amongst players, that kind of contemporaries from other countries. Are they also have the same camaraderie?
I know the Armenian people, they have a very good camaraderie between each other, and I think also the Ukraine people. So maybe a few countries.
Is there any one thing that you think the government can do or the associations can do to kind of encourage more people like you to kind of step up? Is there, or are we doing everything we can?
Yeah, I think like government support is very motivating to all the players, and I know that the Tamil Nadu government supports chess wonderfully, and I'm very happy about it. And I remember like in Chennai Grandmasters, which happened last year, that was just, the tournament happened just because to give me and Gukesh an opportunity to try and qualify for candidates. And Tamil Nadu government was so quick on that. It was like maybe a month time or so. So yeah, it was really commendable.
That's fantastic.
Arjun, just talk to us about the finances that go into being a grandmaster at this level, because a lot of people think that it's just a chessboard. What do you have to do? Talk to us about the trainer fees, the seconds ka fees, traveling to. I think you basically travel to one tournament almost every week, right? So just talk to us about the finances and how much sponsors kind of help you in these situations.
Yes, it does look like it's just a chessboard, what can be so expensive, but yeah, what people don't realize is it's a very expensive sport. For me, almost like 50% of my sponsorship goes on my training. Training is a very important aspect, and there is travel, like you have to constantly travel, and so I think sponsorship is very important for to offer high level training at this level.
Do you kind of feel that you had to give up a bit of your childhood to chase this dream of becoming a world champion at some point? Because I mean, you didn't have to go to you had to kind of forego school, don't have maybe too many friends in school because you just don't go to school. So did you have to kind of give up on those things?
Yeah, back then I didn't feel any of this because I was just so in love with chess and I was loving what I was doing. And of course, I still love the game very much. But now that I look back, I do have this feeling sometimes that, like, I didn't go to school like my friends do, and I didn't go to college like the other people do. So yeah, that does like hurt me a little bit, but it's just very minute, and that thought just comes once in a while and it goes away.
But that's the same guys are then asking you for autographs, right?
That is true, yeah.
Vishy, your whole story, it's like a just a proper underdog script of a movie, right? Like it's just it's just a perfect script. And just being the underdog, you had a lot of challenges. I remember there was this story I read about where you had to literally drive from Amsterdam to Switzerland to make it in time to play. And a guy who was kind of just put in there by default. So the whole system was kind of not really encouraging any challengers. The fact that you were the underdog, the fact that you kind of, didn't have, you were sort of came out of nowhere, how much did that propel you? And does the privilege of the new generation, I'm using privilege in inverted commas, but do you think that that's actually might be a liability for the next generation?
There are things which I found unfair, that particular example. But there are also things I think that just made me strong or made us strong. We went through it once and we learned our lessons from it. And we said, okay, next time we have to do things differently. I feel strongly that my second wave from 2007 to 2013, when I won 4 titles, we were applying a lot of the lessons we learned earlier, the one in Lausanne. So our whole attitude to negotiating with FIDE and knowing what to ask for and what to, not just to see, how's the lighting on stage and thing, but also the minor details. So these some things you have to learn by experience. And you're right. In a sense, we were pioneers and we had to figure this out on our own. There was no institutional transfer of knowledge, right? I was, for instance, amazed once in 2000 when Aruna was negotiating contracts, and it hit me that she had picked up so much of the thing. I mean, she's not a trained lawyer, but her background is advertising, but she was doing all this. We learned how to deal with these challenges, and that's just the way it was. I think getting to the highest title is hard enough, and if things have improved for the next generation, then wonderful.
You've somebody who's won 5 world titles, and a lot of these guys are knocking on the doors. Gukesh is there, but then these guys also will be there in the next successive. What is the one thing that maybe they don't understand, they don't get it yet about challenging for the world title? It's the same opponent, but then something that is different maybe against playing about playing them.
I don't know what they don't know. But more seriously, I think they're so close to the top. They're sniffing most things. Obviously, playing for the highest stakes is an experience that you maybe have to encounter in a very raw fashion to figure it out. But it's funny. They could be each other's rivals easily in some universes, and they'll be in the same boat in a sense. So we'll see.
Okay, I think we'll break for a rapid fire. Short answers. Vishy, we'll start with you, then we'll go around. And then we get to some audience questions. And we also got a couple of interesting questions that have been sent by on video. So look, it's rapid fire, just have fun with it. And let me find the page where I wrote it all down. Sorry. Okay. Vishy, rapid fire. Why, in your opinion, have so many of your contemporaries retired?
Because they wanted to try other things.
What's the one thing that motivates you to still keep at it?
It's a big part of what I do, and I don't want to stop it completely. I don't know how I would fill the time.
Okay. The one achievement outside the chessboard that you're most proud of?
Marrying up.
Okay. One regret that you have in your professional career?
I don't really.
Okay. The one thing that you fear in your professional career?
Playing badly.
Playing badly. Okay. The one thing of all your rivals, who would you call your greatest rival?
I think I've played the most games with Kramnik. So in some sense, you could call him my greatest rival. But I think Magnus is pretty close in terms of number of games as well.
And what's the one thing you've learned from Kramnik?
I thought I had learned how to be very chilled from him. But you continuously learn new things about people. So.
He's not chill anymore.
He's, let's say, doing some very interesting stuff. He's suddenly discovered Twitter, and that's a Vladdy I didn't really see coming. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Okay, one piece of advice you have for Djokovic?
I was, very hard to dislike someone like as nice as Alcaraz, but I was actually rooting for Djokovic. Not to have a knee operation right before a tournament. I don't know.
And what's the one piece of advice you have for Alcaraz now that he's?
He's doing great. He seems to be genuinely chirpy and happy everywhere, and it's a nice attitude to watch. He'll find out.
Okay. And for Rohit?
Enjoy the times it goes well, and really enjoy it.
One piece of advice for Hardik Pandya?
That's, I think, outside my area of expertise.
Okay, I won't push it. The one tip to maintain your mental fitness. I read that you burn 3,000 calories, in a 4-hour chess game, just sitting down and playing chess. Is that?
I wish. I think that number is very high, but yes, we do expend a lot of energy. Number one tip is pretty simple: sleep. If you can sleep well and not think about the previous game, you've got it. For the rest. I think finding something exciting to do every day is what makes it interesting and what makes it easy to concentrate.
Okay, but give us one tip for parents who say they want their kids to grow up to be as sharp, intelligent, and focused as Vishy Anand is.
That's exactly it. So it's not only a question of finding what you love, but finding something interesting to do every day. Our brain responds to new things, and that's actually the best way to concentrate.
Okay, fantastic. Aruna, can I move a rapid fire to you? The one person who has contributed to improving brand India globally almost as much as Vishy Anand does.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay. The one game that Vishy lost, but you were most proud of him for playing.
There is no game like that. If he loses, it's misery and miserable.
Okay. The one contract or endorsement that you were happiest closing.
I think Anand he does a lot of work for WWF, and that is very interesting because, every time you learn a lot of new things, and it's very interesting to see what research they are doing. And personally, we're just very happy to be part of the WWF family.
Very interesting. Okay, lovely. The one thing that the current generation or the Arjun generation of sports people can learn from Vishy's generation.
If you need marriage tips, you know where to ask.
the one piece of advice you'd give a parent for keeping their child sharp, intelligent, focused like Vishil?
I think, like Anand said, let the child decide what they like to do. And it's interesting what children come up with these days. Like my son loves art. I mean, he's really good at it. And I'm very happy he found his own calling. So it's nice to see children passionate about something. It's amazing how much you learn along with them.
Okay. And one advice you have for wives who work with their husbands?
It's okay to shout at them once in a while. They understand.
Or make them do push-ups.
Yeah, make them do push-ups if they can still do it.
Okay. I have one rapid fire for all three of you. Will you support the idea of legalizing sports gambling in India?
Ideally, I would permit sports gambling, but with limits, monthly, daily, whatever.
Arjun, you have a view on this?
Yeah, I think I would just copy an answer on that.
Okay. Aruna?
I think the same. I think it's you should have some limits because it can get dangerous.
And what if you what if chess were to become a gambling sport? I mean, how would that, somebody would come up with a unique idea. Would you welcome it or would you be against it?
Again, with a lot of limitations, but thankfully it's not an issue we have to deal with. In chess, one of the challenges we face is cheating. And so anti-cheating measures are quite important at tournaments. I'm not quite sure what gambling would do to that. As I said, if you can really separate it, the fans want to do it, that's fine.
Okay, so we're going to get to Arjun's rapid fire, then we get to some audience questions. But actually, I wanted to talk about, and we missed talking to Vish about this earlier, but, artificial intelligence is something that, is just a buzzword everybody's talking about these days. But you have kind of, am I right in saying that you kind of stayed away from that stuff? You didn't play the IBM supercomputer when that was a big kind of a gimmicky thing to do. You've consciously kind of...
I was heavily involved in playing computers in those days because it was still possible to beat them.
Yes.
And then this supercomputer came along. And to be honest, that result wasn't as decisive as they made it seem. I mean, Gary had won the previous year, computer won the next year. But they were happy to declare victory and leave. And that computer wasn't intelligent in the same way we use AI, the meaning of the word AI. It's fascinating that AI has brought a lot of understanding to the game. I won't say that I don't feel some nostalgia for the days when humans had to figure some things out on our own. But it is nice that AI helps us understand the game at a different level. Mixed feelings.
There was a very controversial moment that kind of happened where you were playing chess, this friendly game, and a guy called and Nikhil Kamath was kind of fiddling with with an artificial intelligence to kind of and you caught that really fast. You caught it in I don't know how many moves you caught it in, but you can tell that quickly that it's not a human being.
And it's not a single move because it's possible for someone to stumble on a single move, but it seemed to be the series was, my eyebrows were raised because I don't expect to lose to celebrities from other fields. But I did not have enough to make an allegation or anything, so I resigned and left it at that. But later on, they said the match was much too high. So chess.com actually, they check billions of games and they know when something is just not right. And he confessed as well, so that was that. But you suspect things, but you'll get a lot of false positive thoughts in your head. So generally, I believe not going there, so to speak, mentally.
Fair. And do you encourage the people who you're mentoring to kind of embrace all of the technology that kind of comes in training?
Very much. All of them also have a very healthy attitude of trying to play non-computer chess and so on. So they found the right balance. I pass on some advice, but again, the advice from 5 years ago is already outdated, especially in this area. So I think you can only draw the broadest conclusions. But the very fact that they're doing so well suggests that they have found how to use technology effectively.
Because you used to save floppy disks, right, at one point?
Yes, I've had floppy disks. I've had instructions manuals tells me shorten your opponent's names because otherwise it'll use up too much hard disk space and things like that. And any one of my USB sticks has more hard disk capacity than the first 12 computers I had combined. And it's mind-boggling. And anything now is so fast. And phones are stronger than computers I had 15 years ago. And it's just the pace of technology leaves you gasping.
Yeah. Okay, Arjun, quick rapid fire for you. One piece of advice you have for the 13-year-old chess enthusiast who looks at you and says he wants to be a grandmaster like you.
I think just if you enjoy chess, just continue doing it and maybe just play a lot of games.
Okay. Of all your contemporaries, whose journey are you most inspired by?
In the chess world?
Yeah.
So I'm most inspired by Vishy sir and Magnus Carlsen, these two.
And what about the contemporaries, your generation of...
My generation, I think Gukesh is very inspiring because winning world championship, winning the candidates at 17 is a huge feat. The previous record was at like 20, so yeah, he broke it by 3 years.
Fantastic. Okay. The one thing you've learned from Vishy which you cherish the most?
Back in like 2021, I got a chance to play against him, like casual games. And yeah, those moments I really cherish because from those games I learned a lot.
Okay. Is there any particular one move or one trick or something for the chess enthusiasts who are watching?
Okay, then I would refer to my game against him from the European Club Cup 2022. He played a knight move in the middle of the game, like knight a4 or knight b5, something like this. And like, I told my friends after the game, this move I would have never taught in 100 years.
Okay. And just one last piece is what needs to happen for India to dominate chess globally like the Soviets once did?
I think we are doing good, but dominating at their level is, like Vishal mentioned earlier, it's like almost impossible in this era.
Okay. What's the one thing that needs to happen to make chess a more lucrative career choice?
Bring in more sponsors and corporate companies.
Okay. The one rival you're most excited to face this year?
I have not faced Alireza that much, so I would really love to play.
Okay. And the one thing that you think that Vishy's generation can learn from your generation?
Well, this is hard to answer because like we have been learning a lot from them. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, I won't. I won't push you that. I know the very tough question I gave you. But Destiny.
Maybe this is a good one. So maybe play openings that are a bit irrational.
Play an opening.
Play an opening is more great. Okay. And last question: Destiny, free will. Which side are you on?
Sorry.
Destiny or free will? Where do you?
Not an easy one.
Okay, good. It's good that you're confused about that answer. I still am. Okay, we're going to open up some questions from the audience. Yeah, please, can we get a mic here, the first row? Can I get a show of hands to see how many questions there are so I can just, Please, give me a mic in the first row here.
Thank you for an insightful talk. Viswanathan, how much, particularly in the age of AI and technology, how much is chess today science or versus a creative sport?
It's a sport because finally when you play, you're playing the same game that Capablanca played and Philidor played. There is no fundamental difference. But training methods have evolved beyond all recognition. So if I brought a historical player today and we went to a tournament hall, so far so good. But then you show them how we study the game, and that's... so every chess player has to do this constantly. What you think you're learning and what you actually learn. And the only thing you find out you actually learned is what you can execute by yourself on the board. Everything else is something that's just fleeting by. And so we have to balance that all the time. This tension is there. There's too much accurate information, but how to pick something essential out of it and how to understand it in a way that you'll be able to remember it easily. That's the challenge for us. So yes, the game continues to be a sport. It will never be a science unless computers invade that field. But the study of it will be science.
Small follow-up. And the skill set of chess, how has that helped you in beyond the board, in life beyond the board? Especially of thinking 10 moves ahead. Does that help in it? Does that translate into real life in any way?
The only conclusion I've been able to draw is that I'm very good at chess, and therefore a lot of my impulsiveness, even a lot of errors in my decision making are forgiven on the chessboard because I'm a good player to start with, but then not forgiven in other areas because you're not. And you can see it. You can see that many of your character traits play out on the chessboard. As I mentioned, impulsive, that wasn't by accident, Many of my decisions are like that. But then I can clearly see that, I've written millions of reminders to myself as well, that in other areas, you've got to kind of think a bit more. And like I said, I'm conscious of how much training it took to have a good intuition in chess. So probably assuming that I'm not very good in other areas is a good starting point.
The question next to you? Yeah, please go ahead.
Good evening, Samir Pathak from Global Chess League. Sir, it was great to hear from you. And while Arjun answered this question, I wanted to ask you a similar question where he's played, when he spoke about in Global Chess League, he played along with Magnus Carlsen and others. And you've played in teams format as well. You've been part of the Olympiad setup. You've been part of the Global Chess League teams for Ganges Grandmasters. How has it been for you? What is it different with the individual chess player or playing in a team that has different players from different nationalities? How's that different? How do you play differently? How do you take it differently? How do you prepare differently? How do you motivate the team as the captain? If you can just share from that team perspective.
Okay, so chess is a highly individual sport, be it in an individual event or in a team event, because even in a team event, you can only play your board. But nonetheless, it turns out that team spirit and bonding and generally rooting for your teammates and them rooting for you does give you some strength. Famously, in the Chess Olympiads, Armenia, team which is never ranked above 7th or 8th, but they've won so many Olympiads simply because they genuinely seem to be happy to be out there by themselves. So that is nice. And if you can get into that zone where you really feel that you draw joy from your teammates' victory, you see someone like in the league last year many times, if you see that one of your teammates wins, then you feel more excited, you feel lighter, all that. When you get into that mood, it's very healthy for your chess. And of course, learning. I think he mentioned this as well, that interacting with them, exchanging ideas with them is very stimulating. That's special because you will not get to interact with such strong players in an individual tournament because no one will give you such secret information. But in a team, that moment you think, okay, all your rivalries are temporarily parked. And that's very nice to experience in the Global League as well.
Can we get the mic to Mr. Sudhakar Rao? I think he was right there. Yeah.
Here. Mr. Anand Viswanathan, this question is to you. We have students from, say, business schools and tech schools, law schools, and so on and so forth. One of the celebrated pedagogies is to create case studies, the simulation exercises for them to, learn some of these real-life exposures while they are still in the classroom. What is inspired from a chessboard that we can work on so that we help them navigate through these situations like stalemate, checkmate kind of tough situations?
In chess also, it's very important to simulate what might happen in a chessboard. Because the first thing is to understand that when things count, when decisions count, moves count, everything has a cost, and you cannot take back. It's different from when you're training and rehearsing, though the level might be similar. But the decisions you make under pressure and so on, those are the real ones that will have consequences. So if you can simulate that at home, then much better. But then you should train yourself as well, because it won't come easily. You know that you're fooling yourself, so you won't let it happen. So you have to imagine, you have to visualize. If there's something unpleasant at the board, maybe you don't like your opponent's face, you have to imagine that opponent sitting in front of you. And then you might, after a while, you might even feel that discomfort, or you think of something particularly unpleasant. Or you think when you were euphoric, what happened? Did you relax? The effect is very similar, euphoria and failure. The more you can visualize what happens, the more you can, in sport, I think the difference is very clear. But in other walks of life as well, there's a moment when a decision counts, has consequences, and the more realistic you can imagine it, the more you'll remember the lesson when it finally happens. Thank you.
Yes, please. Mr. Ravi in the front row here.
The question for Vishy. India has done well in team sports generally, but you were possibly the first individual world champion. And we had to wait for almost 2 decades for Neeraj Chopra to emerge. But when you are on the peak for five times, or had climbed the peak or right on Mount Everest for 5 times, now looking back at that, you had also Magnus Carlsen who threw away the world title for reasons of his own. When you look back at those, the period when you were right on Mount Everest, how do you feel now?
Partially, I am relieved, but partially I am also very happy, and I cherish those moments. I don't take them for granted at all. So it's both. But if you ask me now to play a 14-game match in a few months and so on, it'll take a lot to overcome my resistance. But I have this stage of life feeling that I felt, well, that's what I wanted to do all my life. I did it. And now I can look back without any regret.
Arjun, just to follow up on that, right? You are somebody who's chasing that world championship title. He's somebody who probably does not want to do it anymore. Even if they've given him a chance, he will probably not want to do it. Magnus has thrown away the crown, as somebody mentioned. What does that make you feel about the world championship crown? Still worth chasing?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth chasing because it's the highest title in chess one can get. And yeah, it's definitely worth chasing.
Can we get the mic to Dr. Padmanabhan? Yeah, please.
Question to Vishy. Hi. So I want to ask, for the current generation, you are the inspiration. I would like to know who was your inspiration when you started playing chess.
For me, it was Michael Tal and Bobby Fischer. I met Michael Tal quite early. Even as a World Junior champion, I got invited to do commentary in a big tournament in Brussels, and he was my co-commentator, so I got to interact with him, play blitz with him, everything. That was very nice. And much later, I actually managed to spend an evening with Bobby Fischer. Both of us, we had dinner with him. That was much more weird. Sadder part of his life. So it was fascinating to meet him, but I always say, like meeting Marilyn Monroe when she was 90 years old or something, kind of misses the point. But every historical chess player I've met, you had this feeling that, my God, you grew up with their games and they're real people. I think that's what I enjoy the most. So, Spassky, even Botvinnik to some degree. when you look back in the history and then you think, wow, I actually walked in the same room with him.
Aruna, is there any manager that you kind of got inspired by? Anybody who you thought as a great partner for?
I remember watching that movie Jerry Maguire,
Yeah.
and I think, not that I guess because I like Tom Cruise, but okay, some of it did stick in my head.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. I saw a question. Yeah, please, gentlemen here, right there. By the way, I just want to take a quick second to say thank you to Mr. Ravi for coming, the publisher of the Hindu group. It's a very pleasure to have him with us. Thank you so much for coming. Just certainly. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sriram here. I want to make the crowd in a lighter way. So first of all, Anand is playing with various younger generation. If Sir title is given to him, then there will not be any problem people calling him. So that is the first point. Second point is, have you ever played construct defense EFI? Because EFI stands for Anand and Aruna.
No, I have not played A5. So recently the follow-up is to blunder your rook as well with rook A6. I was hardwired not to do it. I'll really have to force myself to do it if I can. I don't know, maybe Arjun wants to give it a try, but no, I'm a generation which spent the first 30 years thinking you cannot even think of such moves. Please get it out of your head. I can't change now.
You want to add something, Arjun, to that?
Well, it's a tough move, but maybe in some online game I can try playing.
Yes, please. Introduce yourself, please. That will be wonderful.
The question is to you, Anand, also. Bridge and chess are two of the most fascinating mind games. And generally, there is a feeling that good bridge players are good chess players and vice versa. You could contrast and compare both of these games. How do you actually evaluate the pros and cons?
It's true, there are many chess players who like playing bridge and vice versa. But there are similarities because, again, you can learn from past hands, past games, the study of the game, all that I think carries over very easily. But there's one fundamental difference, which is understanding your partner, and that is not present in chess. In fact, whenever chess players play tandem chess, they do very badly because both want to do different things. So I think that aspect is what separates the two. For the rest, they're very similar sports, yes.
There's a question in the back there. And Mukund, can I put you on the spot and get you to ask a question? And Murga might ask you to do the same. Yes, but yeah, please, go ahead. Mic there? Sorry. Can I get a show of hands? How many more questions there are? Okay, we got a few. Can we take a couple at a time? Is that okay with you? Yeah? Take two at a time. Yeah. Right there, please.
So Anand, what do you think about the cafe style chess that happens in US, right? Is there a way it can happen in India, that kind of culture brought up in India? Yeah.
And then another question right there, I thought.
Yeah. So I have two questions, one to Anand sir and one to Mr. Arjun also. To Anand sir, like you have this next generation coming up. Who do you think is the most similar to you in terms of gameplay style? And to Arjun, considering that we may have an Indian world champion, what do you think about the prospect of facing an Indian world champion for the championship?
Okay, so I'll take the two questions and then pass it to him. Cafe culture, it's a bit late that we discovered coffee shops when people had generally moved to playing chess on phones and things like that. Having said that, I think now the interest is high enough that there might be people, and it might be a good idea for cafe shops that they can, coffee chains, that they can actually keep a couple of chessboards there, make it slightly interesting. And I think they might discover that a lot of people enjoy playing there, and that's a much more social thing. I've done it in Amsterdam in a place called Two Clubs, which is a card reference, I know, but they used to have a chess scene there, and I've done that quite often. I think everyone's modern chess player styles are heavily influenced by computers. I think the three of them are closer to each other than they are to me. But I study their games quite often to understand how things are changing. So maybe our styles are not that far apart.
Yeah, the prospect of us having an Indian world champion is like the thought itself is wonderful, but I think it's quite far away for me to think about challenging because firstly I have to make it to 2026 candidates and I have to win it, so it's too far away. So I'm not thinking about that yet.
But Arjun, did that kind of change something in you when Gukesh made it to the World Championship? Did that kind of open a door in you mentally? Thinking that, okay, somebody who's my age can do it, same set of whatever, all the things considered, you also can do it?
Well, I was trying to qualify for the 24 candidates, but the thought never crossed that like I could win the 24 candidates. But now that Gukesh made it, this also gives me confidence that like if I make it to 26 candidates, there's a very good chance I can also win it.
There's every chance you can also win the candidates, win the World Championship.
First candidate and then maybe World Championship.
Okay, we'll take two here, the lady at the back, then one from there, and then we'll end with Mukund and Muruga. Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, Anand sir. My name is Pranav here. Yes, being, if you look at the past 10 years, the only pillar I can see in chess is you. And now coming here in our generation, you see so many pillars emerging from younger talents. So how do you feel being that pillar that they see to walk their path to?
I'm definitely very proud of it, not only for them, but to have played my part in bringing chess back to India. Because after all, the game was discovered in India, so invented, if you like. And I feel proud about that, but I don't think about it all the time. But it's wonderful to see the game grow, and I'm very happy to have played a part in that.
Hello, good evening, everybody, and thank you very much to the organizers for having invited a lot of professors here. So we are a bunch of professors from SRM IST Katanglatur. My question is actually to the Tigress of Chennai, who've been silent for quite some time. Aruna, if it's a question with if conditional, if there is a choice given to you to switch roles the next time of your birth, which one of you will you pick up from both of you, of the two?
I would just like to be myself.
Thank you. And Anand sir, to you?
Yeah, I'll definitely be myself. I don't think I could pick up her skill set quite so easily. I mean, she's managed to fit into a sport she knew nothing of when we got married. And then, like I said, I was able to depend on her completely. So I don't think I'll manage.
By the way, Arjun, I want to ask you this question. Does love help you focus, on chess, or or will it be a distraction?
Well, I cannot answer it right now. Maybe a few years later, I'll be able to answer.
It's a good answer, actually. Okay. Yes, please. Take one last question there at the back, then this side, then we can.
Clinical sports physio. I'm the first Indian woman to enter the Olympics also. 2016, the American personal physio. My question is, except the physical fitness, mental fitness, what all injury common for chess players? How physio role is working?
I would say that chess players should learn to relax physically because the tension does build up a lot. And personally, I have found, and I've been doing this now for some time, which is to continuously work on my posture for obvious reasons, in addition to general stamina, which you need to last for a 7-hour game because mental expenditure is just as hard. But I find postural issues would be the most significant for me.
Arjun, you want to weigh in on this? Because I think you injured yourself once in a stationary flight, needed surgery, and you still ended up winning that tournament without getting surgery done.
Yes, this was in bail. It was not like related to chess. It just happened, and when it happened, I was alone. It was a very tough moment in my life, and thankfully, my mother was anyway traveling to that tournament from India, and she was like, "Let's just go back to India, get surgery done." But I was very much insisting that I want to play, and I didn't win the main event, but I won the Blitz event there. So yeah, I was like, it's a proud moment for me.
Yes, can we get a question here, please? Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. I have a question which probably is just relevant for people with an amateur interest in chess. And I just personalize this. I used to play chess very badly about 20 years back. But a couple of years back, I discovered an app. And now I play 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute chess on the app almost every day. And, I played pretty badly, but I just wondered if either of you could say whether this is a good way of trying to better yourself at chess a little bit at the amateur level, or whether you need to go to a chess club, or, whether an app and studying game reviews is actually helpful, or whether there are much better ways to get a little bit better.
Again, mixing and matching. Playing with an app is excellent because you get in a lot of games. More games you have, the more mistakes you make. And the review afterwards, if you can understand it and remember it the next time, that's great. Otherwise, that's why having someone you discuss it with who explains it can add a little bit extra.
Great. There's one more question. For Muruga, please. Also, I've got some questions that are sent on videos we want to ask.
Okay, Murugavel from Bharat Matrimony, matrimony.com group. And the question to Anand. The two questions. First of all, you made entire country proud. I was so happy when you are winning world champion. A very proud moment for India. As Ravi sir said, kind of those days you used to really feel proud that, one single person, made our country very proud. And thank you so much. And being in Chennai also, it gives extra happiness. Two questions. One is that, when you are playing, when you're winning the world champion, you moved outside of India. I used to think, why you had to move outside of India. I didn't get a chance, obviously. I didn't have the connection with you. I want to know, what are the reason for you going and staying out of India during that time? That one question. Second is, if not for chess, what you would have become? So, you did become, did you think during those days, in case the chess doesn't go through well, have you thought of any other profession, anything like that?
Okay, I had to, but it was a very good idea to move out to India because it put me closer to people I could work with. It could put me closer to tournaments, shorter travel times, everything. And also you get a lot of extras. Somebody will think of inviting you with 2 days notice if you're nearby. But if you live a continent away, they'll just, anyway, it's impossible, let's look for some other name. So those kinds of benefits. I moved back 15 years ago. So I was living in Spain. We moved back 15 years ago, and India has caught up so much in these areas that it's no longer that relevant. I mean, our connectivity is higher, internet is great, and whatever. What was your second question? Yeah. I don't know at all. One possibility is I would have defaulted into engineering like my father and elder brother. But I simply don't know. Very early, I felt that I was going to become a chess player. I don't feel this in some logical way where I sort of 10 reasons why to and 10 reasons not to. It wasn't like that. It's simply, when you're playing chess, you're in love with it. You cannot imagine doing anything else. So for me, it is the opposite. I didn't decide to play chess. I decided not to do something else.
But a quick follow-up is that, you had a bit of a rough patch in the middle. Is there any advice that you can give people who are actually in a rough patch in their careers? Where you you lost a few games and they were big games. There was also talk of you saying, people were suggesting you retire. You proved them all wrong very fast. But is there anything you do when you're in that position? Do you?
I mean, in 2 words, I'd say emotional separation from what is going wrong. Take some time. Almost always the pattern for me to recover was to take a break from the game, then find some new reason to play the game. It can be new openings, new tournaments, new experiences, new cities, whatever. But if you play with the same background, you'll probably end up playing the same way because you're not breaking free, so to speak. So emotional separation from bad memories, from mistakes and so on. And I found that that's easiest. Much easier to do something new than to work on your mistakes.
Very interesting. Please.
I'm little out of place person. I'm the former governor of Telangana and former governor of Puducherry. Actually, I do a lot of work with the government school children. So the children are more fascinated by this chess play. And the private schools take this chess and they train them and they make them achievers. But to take this play to the government school children, particularly the village children who are much fascinated about this play, I want some plan so that we can train the students, government school children, the village children, the rural children in chess, and they can also become the achievers. You can guide me so that, because I do a lot of work with the government school children and the particularly girl children. You can answer.
I think it's about maximizing, because it's already against big odds that somebody chooses to play chess, likes it, then comes back for more. So it's mostly about access and availability. Chess should be easy to find, easy to play, and then easy to come back to. So for that, you just need to have a room with chess sets and can be part of the sports room or whatever. And you need people in the school who say, come inside, why don't you start a game, I'll show you how, find a playing partner and get out. Once that initial resistance goes, it takes over. So that's the main aim. And I think equipping all schools with minimum level of facilities, board spaces, all that, is best, because you increase the odds that somebody will start playing. And having engaged teachers. So I know many state governments teach people to be coaches. Tamil Nadu government has a program. They're teaching in all the rural areas. Hopefully, if we can build on that, we can make it easy. That somebody comes, they play, and they stay in it.
Super. Okay, we got some questions on the video. Can we get those questions? And if you can, might ask you to turn back a little bit to watch the questions.
Coffee, I take tea, my dear. What would you say back as the next line? Appa, you always tell me, be yourself, no matter what they say. Thanks, Appa, and thanks for the music.
He's basically referring to our favorite song, Englishman in New York. Okay. Be yourself, no matter what they say. So what is the next line? I'm an alien, I'm a legal alien.
Okay, lovely. Another video we've got. The other one?
Hey Anand, firstly it's a great pleasure and privilege to have the opportunity to ask you a question. As a shooting athlete, I experienced my heart rate spiking to 180 during competitions, so all I was trying to do was stand still. Do chess players have encountered similar physical and emotional responses, and do you think it would be fascinating to showcase the internal battles athletes face by tracking parameters like heart rate during a competition? Hey Anand.
An excellent idea. It's been tried recently. There have been tournaments where chess players wore heart rate monitors, and they tracked that. I can tell you that sudden changes provoke huge reactions in heart rate. It might be positive, where your opponent suddenly blunders and you feel yourself excited and you can't. And this is actually a very accurate way of measuring it, because we might be trying hard to not show it in the face, but this reveals it. The opposite is more likely, unfortunately, that you make a mess and you realize what you've done and it drops. But it was in the Isle of Man 2018 that I wore it, and I remember that my heart rate was very low the whole time. So I had the lowest heart rate of anyone in the tournament.
Would that be the same for you, Arjun, do you think?
Yeah, I also played a couple of tournaments with that, and it was constantly below 100, so it's something to be happy about, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, all three of you, for making the time, being here with us. The Express Adda, the place for a patient, nuanced conversation. I normally add the word intelligent when I describe the Express Adda, but I think a conversation with three of you by default will be intelligent, so I don't have to add the word or qualifier as intelligent. Thank you to the audience for being here with us. It's really been I've really learned a lot. And I hope to be back in Chennai for another Adda soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anand, and thank you, Amit, for the fabulous session. May I now invite Unni Rajan Shankar, editor, The Indian Express Group, to present a token of appreciation. The illustrations are by Subhajit Day and Sham. As we conclude, I would like to thank our partners, presenting partner Religare Enterprises Limited, associate partner Vendolite, and university partner IFCAI Group. Thank you once again. Please stay back and join us for cocktails and snacks.
There were huge crowds to receive Anand sir, and that was a very inspiring moment for me. Exactly a month later, I won my first Asian Under-8 Championship. For last 4-5 years, I have been in constant touch with Anand sir through Westbridge Anand Chess Academy, and I have learnt a lot from Anand sir, both on and off the board. I take this opportunity to thank Anand sir for all his support, and I thank Indian Express for this opportunity to speak on Anand sir. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, very warm welcome to an Express Adda. We're very excited. I'm very excited because it's our first Adda in Chennai. Thank you all for being here. Couldn't have been with better guests than it's just the people who have really made Chennai very proud. Thank you, both Vishu and Aruna, for making the time and being here. Thank you so much. Chennai is very special to me. The Indian Express was actually founded in Chennai. So I always feel a lot of sense of nostalgia when I kind of come here. Something very special about what both of you have actually done. It's not just your personal